What's the most disgusting thing you've seen working at Walmart? Kids running around in their underwear. Elderly man peed his pants and left a trail. Kinky couple leading each other around on a dog leash. Kid took a bite out of apple, and the mom put it back in the bin. Story 2. When I worked maintenance, we had a guy get mad at customer service, so he decided to take it out on one of the bathroom stalls. It happened during second shift, but they didn't want to handle it. Overnight didn't want to handle it either. I was new and didn't know not handling it was an option, so I did it. I almost threw up half a dozen times. One guy came in and noticed me. He started telling me about other job opportunities in the area while I contemplated my life decision. Story 3. One time I went into a stall in the woman's restroom, closed the door, and saw someone had stuck their very used sanitary pad to the back of the door. Story 4. A woman walking around with poop in her pants. You could see it seeping through. The smell was so horrendous. It was unbearable to follow behind her. I had to walk away and come back to that area after she had been gone a while. Story 5. A trail of poop from the electronics desk to the ladies' room. Apparently the woman was old/sick and couldn't hold it. One of the managers was asking if she was okay, and we were both trying not to laugh while I cleaned it up. I think that's gonna send me to hell. Story 6. Crap smears in the upstairs bathroom on the stalls. Only employees can go up there. A janitor drinking directly from the water cooler nozzle. A clogged toilet that stayed clogged and crafty for a whole month. $3,000 worth of produce left to rot in the back. I'm talking black mold. Story 7. A woman who informed me she just had a baby and was going home to get drunk and duck. Her husband bent over without any underwear on, directly in front of my goddamn face, and I saw everything. Story 8. Here we go. There was this woman who was not all there and probably not having the greatest housing situation. Not dangerous, but just weird. She came in to do shopping and stuff. No theft, so we didn't mind. One day she used the bathroom and had a health issue where she not only couldn't hold it and dedicate it on the bathroom, she did it so bad that all go out. It gets worse. She apparently was infested with worms, which we found out from EMTs. So this bathroom with diarrhea everywhere. And there were also intestinal worms there. We called in hazmat company for that one. Story 9. This might be tame compared to others, but I work in the garden center, and I see very young baby birds on the floor sometimes. The last one I saw had been stepped on. Story 10. Woman walked in with blood pooling, and I mean pooling, there was a ducking lot, down her leg and tracking all over the floor. She got her crap, went through the register, and went out the door without a care in the world. Like, there wasn't a crime scene looking nasty blood trail following her. The blood was literally filling up her sandal like a mini lake. It probably squelched with every step she took. Gotta love Walmart, and the wonderfully sane people it attracts. Story 11. Dude taking a crap in the beer cooler, or guy walking to the entrance to the meme room, pissing on the floor, then leaving. That's not even getting into the trash can turkeys. Story 12. I've seen a guy spit dip right in one of the frozen bunkers. Also had a guy spit some right in front of the receiving doors onto the floor right as I was about to walk through, and I kicked the absolute crap out of that door and gave him a really mean look. Story 13. Once I found a crap so big in the toilet that it seemed physically impossible. It was so big that it literally looked like a dinosaur egg. It was poking out of the water. It literally looked like a giant green football. There was not a shred of toilet paper. It was literally so big, I sat there and pondered taking a picture of it because I didn't think anyone could possibly believe how large this turd was. Story 14. We have an employee bathroom, and sometimes I see or hear associates leaving without washing their hands. Sometimes those people help out in OGP. Always sanitize your groceries. Story 15. A woman wearing a see-through blue dress and naked underneath. Another girl in self-checkout wearing no panties, and she bent over and flashed everyone. Someone took off their old, dirty, mismatched sandals and placed them on the shelf and put a half-eaten ice cream sandwich in one of them. And a man pooped himself, but it was in his pants, and he just walked around and stunk up the whole store. Story 16. I worked at Walmart 10 plus years ago, but I was in the bathroom taking a dump, and I heard someone run in the bathroom and hopping around. Then I heard a disgusting noise and wondering what the duck it was. Come out, and this dude took a huge crap in the sink. I had to go tell my manager, and the look on his face was priceless. Story 17. The first thing to come to mind is the time I went into work and saw a puddle of liquid next to an intoxicated man sitting on the ground with his pants slightly down and his junk out. He pissed on a garbage can and then had a seat. Yes, this was during business hours, and there were children coming in and out of the store. I saw a lot of things at Walmart, but I think the mix of urine, substances, and indecent exposure takes the disgusting cake. If we're talking about disgusting as in germs and stuff though, it has to be all the things I found in apparel when I first started. The apparel team was understaffed and constantly being pulled to OGP, front end, electronics, craft counter, and wherever else needed help. Zoning in apparel was basically non-existent at that point. The tables looked like little mountains of clothes. Folded PDQs were the same way, and other PDQs were in complete disarray as well. I found so much rotten food while attempting to zone them, including meat. The first piece of meat I found was encased in thick plastic, so luckily it didn't explode or anything, and really, it didn't even smell. The label was ripped off though, and the meat inside was no longer meat, just red, purple, gray mush. I knew for a fact that that particular PDQ, women's activewear leggings, hadn't been zoned at all in almost 2 weeks. Another horrifying find happened later on in my time with Walmart. I was in apparel for the first time in over a month, and while zoning the men's underwear, I couldn't get away from the terrible smell of rotting flesh. Someone left a package of ground sausage in one of the PDQs, and it was so full of gas, it looked like it would explode at any minute. I was afraid that if I touched it, it really would explode. Some of you will judge me for this, but I left it for the next person. The stench was so bad you could smell it in Action Alley, and I couldn't have possibly been the first to notice. If the people who worked in apparel every day couldn't be bothered to clean it up, neither could I. Story 18. Back when I was on stocking, someone left the Big 100 or Big 50, I don't remember what it's called. It just contained the top-selling grocery items for the store. Someone just put the pallet in the backing aisle, and nobody took care of it. I started down stacking it. I smelled it before I saw it. I knew it was either chicken or tuna because the same thing happened to me with wet cat food. And when I uncovered it, it was a crushed, rotting, maggot and fly-infested case of chicken pouches. I nearly vomited, and I walked my ass to self-checkout to grab 2 bags because there was no way in hell I was touching it with my bare hand. Yeah, I didn't eat lunch that day. Story 19. One time I glanced out our dispensing room door and saw an elderly woman walking by. And I looked down, noticing she had crap rolling down both her legs and leaving a trail to the ladies' room. Eventually, she came out and went shopping, still covered in her own crap. Maintenance said there was a pile of crap on the floor so big it was hard to believe it came from one person. Another time, some crackhead had crapped their pants in the store and was leaving a trail everywhere and didn't care. Security made her leave, and she proceeded to go outside our dispensing door, take her pants off, and throw them at the wall. She then walked across the parking lot, covered in crap. I still have a photo of this disgusting moment just to remind everyone I work with about it. My phobia of poo grows more and more every day. Story 20. We had an old lady, like literally 70 plus, at my store that would regularly overload her adult diapers on purpose and leave trails of piss and crap everywhere because she said watching us clean her crap off the floor gave her something to think about with her boyfriend later. Management refused to ban her because she was a regular. I can count the number of times she actually bought something on one hand. So it's safe to say we all were kind of relieved when we heard she died. Story 21. One day we found some crap under the paper towels, hoping that it was dog crap, not human. Supervisor found a man passed out in the bathroom, with his pants halfway down with a bottle of alcohol, half-eaten fruit. Story 22. I don't work at Walmart, but I saw a couple that was walking around, and the girl had a tail. It was peeking out the bottom of her skirt. Story 23. I don't know if this would be under the same category. More or less just shocking. I came to work for an evening shift one day. A few hours prior, there was an incident that left them literally closing down one of the main aisles in the pharmacy. I asked what happened, and they said there was a group of 3 people that came earlier that evening around 9:30 p.m. and literally had intercourse in that aisle. No one noticed because the pharmacy closed at 9 p.m. And it was really slow that day until a stalker, who was meant to be stalking that aisle, caught them all in the act. He ran and told a manager who went to see what they could do. She was so shocked by the entire thing that she called the store manager to ask what to do about it. The store manager suggested that she call the police for indecent exposure. She called the police and all 3 were arrested for indecent exposure. The night crew janitorial staff came almost right after at 10 p.m. He said he was ticked off because as soon as he got in, they told him he needed to clean up bodily fluids in the pharmacy aisle and make sure to sanitize properly and wear gloves. He ended up closing off that aisle and had to claims out a few items in that aisle because he said that there were boxes open and items, if you know what I mean, were stuffed back inside the boxes. Unless the boxes were taped shut, each and every one of those items had to be claimed out. The people who were caught and charged for indecent exposure were also charged, added on to the original charge for theft, and kicked out of our local Walmart for life. Their mugshots were available on a corkboard in the back office for reference, that if any associate sees either of the people involved, they are to be asked to leave, and if they do not comply, they will be fined for trespassing. Never saw those people again. And I worked there after this for 2 years. Those who were actually inside the store during this said that it was the weirdest thing they ever dealt with, working at Walmart. And they dealt with some weird crap, especially at night. especially considering the fact it was still relatively early. A lot of those who were at the store were just thankful that no children out with their parents doing last-minute grocery runs or whatever didn't see anything because the incident happened so fast and was taken care of pretty much immediately, which is literally the only reason the 3 people involved weren't also charged with child sex crimes. It was still around the time that associates under the age of 18 are still working cash registers, so they're also very lucky that no associates under the age of 18 saw anything since the employee parking lot for that Walmart is located on the opposite side of the store. Story 24. There was a dude who walked up Action Alley while shaking crap out of his pants leg. I was asked to guard the spill until maintenance got there to clean it up. I'm standing next to this turd when 2 middle-aged female customers come walking up. Before I can say anything about the spill, one lady points at it and loudly exclaims, "That's crap," and proceeds to kick it down the aisle with her flip-flop clad foot. To this day, I still cry laughing when retelling that story. Story 25. Hands down, some asshole dropped a bag of puppies behind the store, and in the middle of apparel, big contractor black trash bags of animals. Crap's crazy. People ducking in the parking lot. Also, the dude who came and ended his life in the parking lot. Bro, what the heck? People need help. Story 26. When I was in maintenance, I had an older, as in fossilized, lady who shat all over the front end and didn't realize it for a while. She was in her own little world. Story 27. A lady took her colonoscopy meds and left a brown trail from the entrance to electronics where she was intercepted and asked to leave. I didn't see it personally, but a local teacher exposed himself to a minor in the bathroom. He was arrested, and the kid kind of just became the subject of extreme sympathy and simultaneously the subject of gossip. Story 28. Pieces of poop in random places. A couple times over, all my years combined at a few different Walmarts. One time was just a few turds just kind of scattered a little randomly in produce. The most recent was in the restroom by a trash can, so that's more understandable. The worst part is having to tell maintenance why you need them. This last time the maintenance man closest to me was my friend, so I tried to make him laugh so he wasn't so bummed out. I told him there was a piece of duty on the floor in there. He said, "Oh, what?" Then we were both kind of bummed out together. It was one of those days people were just assholes in all ways. A lot of people pick their asset and noses and stuff and don't wash their hands, cough on you at the register, yawn or exhale all crazy hard with bad breath all over you. Ugh, I'm on my day off and triggered story 29. I wasn't working for Walmart, but I was working in a grocery chain at customer service and it was near a hospital. Woman comes up to me and asks if I have a scissor, and she starts to unwrap a bloody gauze wrap. She wanted to cut like half of it off. I told her I didn't have any scissors. She walked away. Story 30. Had customers talking about buying a cucumber and using it later. Guy jerking in parking lot. Customer completely ran over the toilet and busted it with a motorized cart. Customer crapped all over the store floor. There was a trail. Story 31. I walked into the back bathrooms by electronics and heard a woman, I presume, fingering herself on FT because there was a male voice telling her to go faster, etc. I shut that light off in the bathroom so fast and clocked out story 32. We had a woman with a service dog. She let him walk around and he crap all over the floor in front of register 1. Didn't tell no one. Didn't clean it up. Just picked her dog up and left. Story 33. This was a few years back, but a customer came and got me, was CSM at the time, to tell me there was a dead woman in the bathroom. Okay, so I go in and there's a woman laying on the floor of the handicap stall on a cardboard box that she had flattened and blocked the bottom of the stall. She was naked, completely nude. I pounded on the stall door until she moved, demanded she dress, called the only female manager in the store at the time, and the woman tried to walk out of the restroom nude. Call police and EMS. In the stall was a Ziploc bag with a can of aerosol hairspray and a straw. She huffed the whole can. Also in the stall were release papers from the local treatment facility. Back to facility she goes, on a stretcher, after leading police officers to HBA to steal another can of hairspray. Good time. Story 34. This happened at my job before Walmart, but it's so disgusting I have to share. An older customer came in actively crap her pants. Her daughter helped her to the bathroom where she stripped down in front of the sink to wipe off. I had to mop up the trail of poop that went to the door all the way to the back of the store at the bathroom. When I went in the bathroom, that is when I discovered the customer had stripped down. She didn't seem to have dementia or anything, like she seemed completely there. I still have no clue how or why that happened. Story 35. I didn't witness it, but we have these older, probably mentally disabled regulars. They always come in together and they smell horrible. I guess there was one day she came in alone, at open got on one of the Mart carts and was there all day. I was told at one point she pissed herself, so one of my coworkers bought her a blanket to wrap around her because she wouldn't answer what size pants she needed and someone got her a different Mart cart. They had to call the cops to get her out at close. Story 36. I once went into Walmart in my underwear, did shopping, walked around, nobody said anything or gave me any weird looks. Went to go use the bathroom, and I'm standing in front of the urinal, and I lift my shirt up and look down, and that's when I realize I'm only wearing underwear. I let my shirt down, walk out the bathroom and out the store, and get in my truck and drive away. Didn't even get anything in my cart, just left it outside the bathroom door. Story 37. I worked in the deli with someone who was partly mentally disabled. I'm sure there's a better way to say it, but it evades me. She could not comprehend that if something fell on the floor, it was garbage. She served food so many times that had been on the floor. TL and coach both talked to her multiple times, and she just did not get it. Eventually, she quit, and she just made the local paper for punching her 3-year-old son in a Dollar General. Story 38. This was way back in time, but we were a smaller Walmart and had 2 bathrooms, one by the return counter and one in the fat back where electronics and layaway were. Well, someone couldn't wait for one of 4 stalls and proceeded to crap in the urinal. I'm talking a hefty log. And yes, it was in the one up front, our busiest bathroom. Just the guts of him to drop a chocolate kiss off like that. And we let overnights deal with it. Story 39. Yesterday I picked up an unassuming shirt only to discover it was covered in dog crap. I could tell by the smell. I walked it to the fitting room about 100 feet away and a piece fell on my shoe. We threw it away and another piece fell off. We disposed of everything quickly because it smelled so awful, and we washed our hands and I threw away the shoes. The shirt had obviously been used to clean up a mess. Story 40. Ex-home office guy here. Got laid off in 2020. I was working late one evening and went to the bathroom for a piss. Men's. And there was a dude watching adult film and cranking away. He must have thought he was there alone because he was shaking the metal dividers. I made a fake cough noise, and he quickly got as silent as the grave. Story 41. Not Walmart, but I worked at a DG at the beginning of the pandemic. Someone, instead of asking if our bathrooms were open, went and grabbed a pack of toilet paper. Of the self went to our back room and crap in a tote. They somehow didn't get caught on camera, so we never found out who the mystery crap was. Story 42. I started in apparel when I was 16, and the little boys section was mine to upkeep and fold. Well, I was folding the jeans wall, and I also had to check pockets for stolen items hidden. Stuck my hand and pulled out a used tampon. Almost 10 years later, I still don't feel clean. Story 43. I looked in the mirror once. Jokes aside, bagged dog crap on the floor, in front of the chips, by the registers. There was a garbage can within eyesight, but they left it by the food, partially concealed between the shelf and the belt. I have very limited hope for humanity. Story 44. When I was cleaning shelves, I once found an open, half-eaten can of beans. It had the most colorful mold I had ever seen. I worked on the mod team. When resetting shelves, we found a lot of interesting things hidden on them, but that was definitely the most disgusting. Story 45. When I worked for Kmart, our security caught a guy on camera pleasuring himself. He was tackled and put in handcuffs until the police arrived. That was by far one of the most disturbing things I ever witnessed. Story 46. Went to pull a customer car into the auto center for an oil change. This lady was like a witch or something. She had put dead cockroaches on the dashboard in front of the speedometer. It wasn't as gross as the dead rat she had sitting on the passenger seat. Story 47. Every single day, at least one of the stalls in the women's bathroom is spray painted in crap. I genuinely don't know how that happens. And the sanitary boxes for feminine products reek. It's absolutely disgusting. Story 48. An associate having solo fun in the restroom. The stall wasn't locked, so I think he was cruising. Another time, there was an obese lady on the riding scooter, and she was only wearing a tank top and panties. Story 49. Dude OD'd in the public front restroom. Needle still in the arm, pants around his ankles, and he filled up the shifter before and didn't flush. He was resuscitated and lived. Story 50. Had a customer crap themselves and end up trailing it through whole store. Felt sorry for the poor guy. Apparently he was incontinent. Make the whole store smell like crap for a few hours. Story 51. One time I was zoning in baking and saw a white hand towel on the shelf, so I grabbed it, thinking it was just a normal go-back. When I grabbed it, I saw there was dog poop wrapped in it. Story 52. I also have the same old someone crap all over the bathroom. But we had a woman hit her wrist and back. Family bathroom. Don't know what happened to her after the ambulance came. Story 53. Weird would probably be my co-workers during COVID season. When we used to close the store at 6 p.m., they got caught having a threesome in the old automotive tire room, and it was on camera to Story 54. I worked service desk. A lady was caught shoplifting makeup and clothes. I was tasked to claim all of it because several items were pulled out from inside of her. A lady took a bunch of clothes into the fitting room and sat down on the little bench in there. and just did her business on the bench, wiped with the clothes she brought in. A lady checking out at my register peed on the floor while I was ringing her up. She had on a dress, and I didn't notice. My friend who walked past her as she left said, "Her front is went." Then we noticed the puddle of pee in front of my register. Someone peed themselves while on an electric scooter. A man came in with overalls on and no shirt underneath. Told me he wanted to return the overalls, the ones he was currently wearing. He smelled like he hadn't bathed in a real long time and visibly looked filthy. I told him he needed to put on different clothes and he couldn't just stand there naked to return the overalls. It was end of shift before he came back, so I DK what ended up happening. Been handed soaking wet toys full of child slobber to scan. Been handed mostly eaten fruit to ring up. I ended up weighing it twice to charge them for it, since their child ate it. Story 55. Worked maintenance for 5+ years. Seen a plethora of horrible things, many of which were in the women's bathroom. Normally far worse than the men's. Minus one particular apocalypse I was called to clean. Was a dark day indeed. In the feminine hygiene boxes, I found gift-wrapped turds, dirty/ripped up underwear, half-eaten sandwiches and other food remnants, liquor bottles and used needles, toilet seats, walls and doors, written on and frosted like cakes with poo, dirty diapers, and used tampons under and on shelves, sex toys in the parking lot. I found one of those bicycle helmets with the rubber spikes in the toilet. There was the half-eaten tub of butter on the back of one toilet. But I think the worst was the unidentified, mostly liquid, remains of what I hope was a dog in a bag, stuffed in one of the parking lot trash cans in the summer. Left me messed up for days. Story 56. I'm not maintenance, so haven't seen the worst, but I did see a poo version of what the aftermath of the blood elevator scene in The Shining must have looked like in the handicap stall. It was even on the ceiling. I honestly cannot fathom what must have happened there. I decided I did not need to use the bathroom. As a cashier, I saw a lady vomit, throw a reusable bag over part of it, and then sit in the bagging area with her feet in it while her husband finished ringing things up. And something that happens all the time. Parents letting their kids poke holes in packages of meat with their grimy, disgusting fingers while they pretend to not notice. Of course, there are others, but these three stick out for me. Story 57. There was a guy one time who had a severe case of meth mouth. His teeth were rotting out of his mouth, and he was in pain, bleeding open sockets in his gums, crap like that. He came in to shoplift, but I guess he felt like he needed a cover, so he filled a shopping cart with random crap. While he was shopping, though, he was pressing wads of paper towels into his bleeding mouth sores. When they got saturated with blood, he just dropped them into the shopping cart with the merchandise he was pretending to buy. SMH. When he eventually abandoned the cart, there was about 7 or 8 blood-soaked paper towel wads just dropped onto the merchandise in his cart. I ducking hate people. Story 58. I worked at Walmart for a few months in high school as day maintenance janitor. I cleaned one of the bathrooms one day, and as I was leaving, this 400 pounds dude came waddling in, clutching his belly and moaning. He literally sprayed diarrhea all over the toilet, the floor, and the wall behind it. I almost threw up when I walked in. The smell was so bad. I cleaned it up, but let's just say I wasn't heartbroken in the least when they fired me a few weeks later for missing a shift. Was on a school trip that ran one day longer than planned. Story 59. Was walking from my department, bakery, to the front end bathrooms when I smelled something, looked down, and there was a trail of diarrhea heading to or from the women's restroom. I was still pretty far away and could see a big puddle/pile in front of the bathroom doorway. Then a lady stepped in it, slipped, and fell. I turned left and went to the back bathroom. I still wonder about that lady and whether she was the pooper. What's worse, falling in your diarrhea you just trailed across the store, or slipping and falling into someone else's crap. Story 60. While I was shopping at one of the 2 Walmarts in the city that I lived in at the time, I had stopped to use the bathroom and I couldn't figure out why there were so many flies in there. Started investigating. Found out that the toilet was taken entirely off of the flange and moved off to the side and had dried crap in the bowl, toilet paper all over the floor, and all of the piping was missing. Conveniently, this Walmart was known as the Stab and Grab Walmart. Story 61. Not at Walmart, but at Walgreens. 2 different people's colostomy bags burst, one in the aisle, and then they walked to the restroom, leaving a trail of poop along the way. Then a couple weeks later, one burst inside of the stall in the restroom, sending poop all over the walls, ceiling, floor, ironically everywhere except for the toilet. I told my GM that had I known this would be a frequent occurrence when I interviewed, I would have never taken the job. She closed the restroom and had cleaners come in and clean the restroom. Story 62. I was working with a really nice young lady and a gross dude. The gross dude let his pants hang down so his butt crack and blue underwear showed. The young lady pointed it out and we laughed. The next day, we saw that he still had blue underwear, but now it had a big post-stained skid mark racing stripe on them. I pointed it out and we were laughing so hard. Then she said, "I'm going to Zone Chemicals." I didn't blame her. I miss her. She pointed out early in COVID before they decided, "Come to work, please." Story 63. People letting their kids eat food directly off the floor. I'm talking a cookie is sitting on the floor in self-check, and these people are watching their kids sit on the floor on their knees, bending over and taking bites of the cookie on the floor. Someone crap in the parking lot and just took their pants and underwear off and leave them right in the parking spot. Someone crapped their pants on one of the electric scooters carts, then leaving crap residue on it for the next person. Honestly, the list goes on and on. Story 64. Saw two adult men playing around with a container of plastic balls prominently placed at the end of an aisle. They both selected a ball and were shooting at the container like it was a basketball goal. After a couple minutes of this, one guy decided to slam dunk his ball into the container. Instead of going into the container, the ball hit the sharp edge of the container and exploded with a loud pop. I started laughing at them. I don't know what the crew did about it. I immediately left to do other things. Story 65. Back when I worked maintenance, someone had stole Pokemon cards, threw the packaging in the toilet, then took a crap on it. Then another night, someone crap on the floor by the toilet seats and hardware. Then a rotisserie chicken was on the shelf in pets so long it had maggots on it. Another time, hamburger meat got pushed under a shelf, and same story there. And finally, as a stalker, I was zoning candy and had to skip one whole section because someone puked on the shelf. Story 66. I heard at a local store, for whatever reason, people would poop in a shoebox and leave it, like just with the other shelves. From what I saw, a guy obviously didn't make it to the toilet in time, and apparently his feet were slipping and sliding around in his liquid poo. But the worst was a guy who blew out in the corner of the bathroom and wiped his crap all over the walls and ceiling. Thankfully, our bathroom is all tile and all they had to do was hose it down. Story 67. We caught a coworker pleasure himself in the bathroom. We saw his shadow and heard the fleshy squishing. It's even weirder because 1, he was off in like an hour and a half. 2, there was a family bathroom right next to the bathroom that would have had actual privacy. The worst part? He did not wash his hands afterward. The worst part? He was maintenance. Story 68. A customer just walked from one end of the stories to the front, leaving piles of crap as they casually strolled up to the front doors. It was a regular customer. Nothing was wrong with them except that they had the craps that day. We as cashiers had to guard said piles until maintenance got there to clean them up. I hated working for Walmart. The bullcrap they had us do back then in the early 2000s was awful. Story 69. This was just weird, but I saw a middle-aged man and a child that appeared about 10 years old shopping. The child was behind the man with their arms around him, following. Then, like half a minute later, someone in another aisle threw an object over the shelf into the aisle I was in. I was also at the same Walmart another time, and it was raining, and someone was doing donuts in the parking lot. Story 70. I used to work maintenance at a Walmart. Some dude crap in a urinal, and another guy, I'm sorry for the grotesque description, but some old man sprayed crap all over the ground and toilets. There were no handprints and no one physically spread the crap everywhere. Someone had literal explosive diarrhea. I work stock now overnight. Also, coworkers are no better. I've learned. Story 71. I only worked for Walmart for a very short time during COVID shutdowns because I usually work in a gym, and obviously gyms were shut down, and I needed cash. Within my first week of working there, I saw people intentionally coughing on produce, and then it escalated to people removing their masks to cough on me. How I didn't actually get COVID until 2022 is a mystery. Story 72. A woman bought head lice treatment for her daughter and proceeded to give her the treatment in the public woman's restroom. She was caught brushing the lice out of her daughter's hair at the sinks. My register was right in front of the bathroom doors, so all day I kept getting asked why there were people in hazmat suits cleaning the restroom. Story 73. Dog crap in the aisle, and the maintenance man ran it over with the scrubber instead of cleaning it up. He literally smeared it down the whole aisle. Some nasty Karen set her gigantic dirty pads on top of the sanitary box instead of inside today. Didn't wrap them or fold them, just flopped them giant ass pads out and all over the box. Story 74. I had just started my shift and went to the bathroom, not even in there for 2 minutes, when a customer tells me that bathroom in particular needed to be cleaned. He points to the stall, and I go look, expecting crap to be all over the walls. It was much worse. There was blood all over the toilet and somehow on the wall behind toilet. Story 75. On Halloween this last year, we had a couple come in. She was wearing fishnet tights and barely their underwear and a tank top. Basically, all of it was hanging out. Her partner decided to pleasure her whilst in the SCO. Then, of course, there's the standard poops and period blood on toilets. Story 76. I worked overnights at Walmart. I've seen some things. An entire bathroom stall covered in blood and an extremely used tampon on the floor. A couple was caught having sex in the automotive department. Someone crap in the fitting room. Someone crap in the urinal. I'm a female, but 3 dudes told me about it. Story 77. I worked at Kmart, and I know it's not Walmart, but some lady had massive diarrhea in the changing room. Everywhere. Walls, floors, bench, clothes. My manager told me to clean it up without gloves. He said I could use the plastic grocery sacks as gloves. I said, hell no. So he ended up doing it. Story 78. I work at the ODP. When I went to the bathroom at the back of the store, most of the stalls do it in the toilet. Perhaps some people used it and forgot to flush, or the auto flush did not work. Anyways, I went to use the other bathroom at the storefront where the registers are. Story 79. An older guy walked into the stall next to me, dropped his drawers, and before he even bent over to sit down, I saw a single turd fall to the floor. He sat down, picked it up with his bare hand, and I can only assume he just dropped it in the toilet after that, hopefully. Story 80. Nothing really happens at my store, so the only thing I can think of is while we were removing the shelves and pushers and dairy and the meat sections during our remodel, discovered that behind and underneath all that is a crap ton of mold. It was so gross. Story 81. When I was a cart attendant at Target, I know, someone smeared crap all over the walls of the bathroom and on the floor, and me and the other cart attendant had to clean it up because that's how Target works. Story 82. Lady came with a dog she claimed was an ESA. As soon as he did a big number 2, I had a grin on my face, a bad idea on my part in hindsight. Told her the dog wasn't allowed inside after that incident. She huffed and left it there for us to clean up the mess. Story 83. Some dude had crap into his hands and threw it on the ceiling. Someone else had dropped a brown landmine in front of a register and some lady had stepped on it. A couple decided to make the family bathroom into a family planning bathroom. My manager polishing the flute in the back of storemen's bathroom. Multiple service animals taking dumps in the middle of the store. Some dude walk into the store barefooted. The bottom of his feet was blacker than me. Used pads and condoms in places where they shouldn't be. This is all I can remember. Story 84. We had a lady get really mad at the deli counter girls. They were busy and helping customers, and she was told she would be helped in just a moment. In that instant, she screamed and just pooped on the floor, flipped the deli girls off, and ran out. Story 85. I don't work at Walmart, but as a customer, the nastiest thing I ever seen in the store was someone's burster cyst all over the floor, just a puddle of pus. Story 86. I hadn't seen, but everyone on overnights heard of the pissed off dude having a bad trip who shat in the bread roll bins and then went around trashing bakery and produce until the cops showed up. Story 87. I remember when I first started at Walmart in 2020, I was working the cereal aisle and someone let their kid piss in front of the Cheerios, and because the store was built on a slight incline, it went down the entire aisle. Story 88. Had a guy come through self-checkout wearing a denim skirt or just really short and baggy shorts, and his junk was hanging out there. Was a minor employee working the SCO at the time as well. Yeah, glad I didn't get a peek. Story 89. This just happened a couple days ago. I was in a stall going to the bathroom. I looked down and see water rushing towards my feet. It was not water. Someone decided to piss on the floor instead of the toilet next to me. Story 90. Hard dog crap. Kicked under the paper towels, steel, and was there for weeks. Every time the pump crap backs up in maintenance area. One time I stuck my hand into a busted, moldy soup bag, seeing a mouse and cockroaches. Story 91. Someone used a towel that they had not purchased to change their baby on a shelf in toys and left both the towel and the diaper there. It was in my first 6 months too. Surprised I didn't quit then and there. Story 92. Sex toy on a shelf that looked sticky. Like what the heck took it out and just left it on a shelf for some poor bastard to find. I'm thankful I heard about it in the break room and did not personally experience this. Story 93. Every store ever has had couple doing it in the back room and freezer. And if you want something more morbid, we had one guy unfortunately decide that enough was enough in our back room. That was a rough day. Story 94. We had a lady that was using puppy pads on the electric scooters, and then she would profusely piss herself all through the store. Also need to mention, she'd spend 3 to 4 hours in the store at a time. Story 95. There are multiple occasions of me seeing bite marks in fruits and vegetables. Not common enough to be a mouse or rat. Definitely at least one kid a week does this, but I have never caught one. Story 96. Name your poison. Used condoms stuffed into shoes. Used tampon pads stuck to the walls. Dog see in the ladder fixtures. Adult feces in the outdoor garbage. Too much, too little time. Story 97. I had a lady literally stop me mid-pick walk to ask me where the bathrooms were. I told her, and she kept claiming for a good 10 minutes she wouldn't make it and crap herself right beside me. Story 98. When I was a cashier, a man with a gangrene head wound came up to my line. That smell was something I'll never forget. The pus oozing out of the scabs was pea green. Story 99. My first day working was hired as maintenance. I wasn't even on the clock 5 minutes, and they called for maintenance and produce. Someone took off their pants and took a crap and walked off. Story 100. I was just walking out to break and watched a dude with his kid in the cart spit right in the ducking floor. Huge ass glob of crap right in front of me. Couldn't believe my eyes. Story 101. Parents abusing their kids. Poop on ground. Lady naked in bathroom cause she was waiting on her friend to bring clothes. People passed out and peed themselves. People OD on substances. Story 102. My granddaughter walked into the mother's room to find a naked guy taking a crap on the chair. I found the plastic grocery bag of crap between boxes of diapers in the baby section. Story 103. One of my coworkers was busted ducking in the family bathroom. I don't care if it's recently been cleaned. Ducking in a public bathroom is a disgusting act for disgusting people. Story 104. Westerdy, Walmart, seen a couple and their grown son in the aisle. At least it looked like their grown son, and the young man slapped the mother on the ass and said, "I love you, Mom." Story 105. Some lady took a crap. Not between the aisle, but like up front behind the cashiers and where the aisles start. And two kids started legit playing with the crap like it was kinetic sand. Story 106. Someone once kind of shook his pants leg on the way out and dropped a deuce by the door. Another time, a woman rolled down her leggings and shat in the middle of the parking lot. Story 107. A lady rubbed feces on my hand when I was taking her cash at the register. I also saw a girl projectile vomit like the Exorcist in front of self-checkout. The joys of retail. Story 108. Guy pooped his pants, stole some pants from apparel. Got caught, AP made him put his old pants back on. They gave us the stolen pants that had poop on them too to claims out. Story 109. I work deli. Our hot food when it's close to refresh time is pretty nasty. Other than that, nasty bathrooms, especially the front ones. Ones by electronics are better. Story 110. People who let their dog crap up and down the dairy aisle and left in a hurry had to stand by it for 2 hours while picking. Someone grabbed onto my handheld and finished the walk. Story 111. Never saw it in store, but I saw a video online of a dude finished over the toilet paper dispenser in the men's bathroom at a Walmart like. That is vile. Story 112. Shrimp left rotting for weeks in one of the snack aisles. Took forever to finally find it. Someone pooed on the floor in one of the bathrooms and framed it with duct tape. Story 113. I also had to run back camera for a man who crap in an aisle, and I had to follow him via camera because he was using merchandise to wipe himself. Absolutely disgusting. Story 114. At our local Walmart, someone diarrhea all over the floor, and you could see where either him or someone else had slid in it, thus making a crap angel on the floor. Story 115. Not what I've seen, but what I was told by our AP. We had a woman shove a salmon up her to try and steal it, took it out of the packaging and everything. Story 116. I remember visiting the veggie and every vegetable was rotten. All of it. All of it. I felt like I was 5 months into an apocalypse for a second there. Story 117. When I worked at Walmart, this man and his kid pulled their pants down and pissed all over the aisle in the baby section and then walked their cart through it. What's the nastiest thing you've ever seen at Walmart? Back when I worked there, I saw a guy throwing up walking across the store. Didn't even bother running to the bathroom, just kept walking and throwing up. Story 2. Had a guy finished in one of those Contig water bottles and bring it up for me to check out. He had this crap-eating grin the whole time, and when I asked him what it was, he told me to guess and winked at me. So that crap was very questionable. Also had another guy buy a sex toy and ask a cashier to demonstrate it for him. Not to mention, he literally watched the guy in front have to go to a different register because under 18s can't ring up alcohol. Needless to say, front end has some weird crap going on. Sometimes. Story 3. Customer didn't make it to the back restrooms and had a trail of crap leading to the restroom. And the crap got smeared around since people were walking through it and pushing their carts through it. Story 4. We had a 1987 Buick GNX come in that was upgraded and was a twin turbo instead of the single. Was tubbed out in the back with a big tire, full interior inside. Nasty girl. Story 5. A group of thugs grabbing a bunch of iPads out of the open cabinet and then running down the 85-year-old W2 vet lady greeter. She was okay, but was just in their way. She had no clue why they were running. Strangely enough, a friend of mine, non-Walmart employee, was walking into the store, saw what was happening, and got in her car and chased them down until the sheriff could take over. It was all a setup. One of the thugs acted like he was going to buy one, and when the associate opened the case, they all struck. Story 6. I, an apparel employee, was going to use the bathroom. It was empty except for one woman. She was talking to herself, saying, "Oh boy," repeatedly. I had gotten done using the bathroom and was washing my hands when I hear the woman say, "Is anyone out there?" I wanted to ignore her so bad, but me being me, I couldn't. Wish I did. I said, "Yes, what do you need?" She said that she got sick and needed some wet paper towels. So like the good employee and Samaritan I was, I got them for her. I was gonna just toss them under the stall door or something, but she had other plans. She came out of the stall with no pants on, her poopy underwear around her ankles, and poop all over her hands. I have not been the same since I've seen that. Not to mention I could smell it the whole time I was in there. Story 7. I've only been here for about 6 months now, so this is tame. But I was pretty grossed out when I let someone into the fitting room and they left a bunch of bloody tissues on the bench. Also, some of the people that come through smell so bad that we have to spray the room down and close it off for a while until it dissipates. How do you stink up a room so bad that it lingers after you're gone? Story 8. Working overnight when a female on the phone, very loud, talking to a hookup with a grumpy toddler crying and wanting attention when she cold clocks the baby girl right as I turned down the aisle with freight. I went and told management what happened, and they couldn't do anything because those people act that way. Story 9. A lady once tried to return a sex toy. She told me she wanted a bigger one, and it was out the box. I looked at that Karen like she was crazy and said no. Story 10. Had a really drunk guy walk from the bathroom to the front door pissing himself. The next night, a completely different guy walked around the store, dribbling the most horrific smelling piss all over the store. Story 11. Just yesterday, I'm in the bathroom stall. Do my business. Come out and think, damn, someone just took a fat poo. It stinks so bad. I start washing my hands, completely oblivious to what's happening to my left. I finish and finally see a lady wiping up something off the ground. Then I realize and ask, "Ma'am, is that poop?" She says yes and explains that it all just came out of her. There's giant poop stains all over the floor from her diarrhea explosion. I can see that it ran down her pant leg and is covering her sandal and bare foot. I have to carefully tiptoe around all the poo on the ground to get out of the restroom after letting her know I'll get maintenance. Easily the nastiest thing I've seen beside the blind man I saw pee himself once. Story 12. Man goes to electronics, somehow pulls up adult film on one of the phones, then proceeds to whip out his junk and do it in front of everyone. Story 13. Combo of broken cans of claims, maggot-filled cat food, and GV dandruff shampoo, the green stuff. When I worked in claims, that was in one tote. Ugh. The other traumatizing thing for me is 6 broken cases of 64 of maple syrup on the floor from the baler by Claims to Reclamation. The entire thing was an inch deep. To this day, I can't stand the smell of maple syrup. Took me 3 hours to clean the muck up, even with the floor machine used. Story 14. I was behind a middle-aged man. About halfway from the front end, he shook his pant leg and a massive, stinky brown meat rocket fell out. He proceeded to look at it, smile, and speed walk out of the store. Story 15. A guy crap his pants at self-checkout. I could tell something was up because of the terrible smell. I looked in the direction and saw a huge wet mark on his ass and crap stains going all the way down to his socks. I almost had to go outside and puke in the trash can because the smell was so foul. Story 16. My store has had a dog piss on the floor in front of customer service, but the worst is the bathroom. Plenty of times there is crap on the toilet seat and floor, and a pipe was left in the women's bathroom one night. Story 17. Had a coworker who had a cyst open up at work and had a large puddle of blood at work. They ended up calling in someone to clean up the blood as it was too much for maintenance to clean. Story 18. Picked up a cart outside, strolling through the store. I kept smelling poop. Loaded the cart with 2 cases of bottled water first. Kept smelling poop. Loaded more groceries. Went to self-checkout, and when I got to the bottled water, I flipped it to scan. It was then that I noticed poop smeared all over the bottom of the cart and on the cases of water. I smelled the poop. Story 19. Watched a coach bait an associate into a fight, then fire him the other day. Other than that, a pool of blood with shopping cart wheels and footprints going right through. And the other day, when I wasn't there, I guess a dog crap on the floor, and one of the floor cleaning carts smeared it everywhere. Story 20. Someone left a large igloo cooler in a grocery cart in our parking lot that was completely full to the brim with human crap. It was like the 32-quart cooler. We could smell that MF from across the parking lot. Dude, who had to move it, went home immediately after Story 21. Not too bad, but while unloading a frozen dairy truck, had semi-frozen cottage cheese and coffee creamer mixture all on top of the freight. Story 22. I worked in the pick module at my DC to keep asides clear of debris and clean up spills. I've seen an Ozark Trail canteen full of tobacco spit juice, multiple bottles of pee, used condoms, tons of expired food rotting with maggots and ants, multiple open food boxes. So many people would show up in the morning and shop for breakfast, get some cookies and tea, iPhones stashed in areas for clothes, Apple Watches stashed, used clothing, someone swapped for new and walked out. Story 23. Used tampon. Under a shelf comes to mind, the compactor being broken for a month because it caught fire. Middle of July, trash maggots, you name it, used condoms in the fitting room, someone left a literal garbage bag with a dead animal in it in apparel. Also, someone again left a garbage bag with dead puppies in it outside. Moral of the story? People suck. Crap happens. You gotta take the good with the bad and move on. Story 24. Someone at my store took a massive liquid crap all over the front end's bathroom. They wiped it everywhere. All over the floor, the toilets, the stalls, and no one cleaned it up for 3 days, and no one bothered to do anything about it until a customer got home and had human crap all over their carpet from their shoes after shopping at our store. Story 25. Not nearly as bad, but my coworker's bare ass when he was using the urinal. He had to have been approximately 60 years old. Like, please have some decency or use the urinal. Story 26. Back when we were open overnights, a woman came in, dropped a deuce, bled all over it, and booked it. Head maintenance, 3 guy almost walked because of it. Story 27. All salaried management through and through. No exceptions are useless and don't deserve their pay. They play operational cowboy but hire useless ducks. Hide when it's busy only to emerge. And Karen when things fall behind hut then make bonuses that should go to their associates to try and help them from drowning in crippling debt, from being paid dog crap wages that don't follow up with inflation. Story 28. Not me, but a friend in maintenance, and the supervisor found a red dress shoved into the men's toilet. Got one myself 2 or 3 times. I was outside in the parking lot and found carts and trash bins filled to the brim with rotting meat. One of the most disgusting and weirdest things I've seen overnight. Story 29. Working in photo. I wish I had eye bleach. The amount of asses and junks I've seen. Even had a lady print pictures of her giving birth, and the amount of awful amateur adult film. Story 30. Walmart maintenance here. It's gotta be the poop hammocks or the toilet filled to the brim with ice cream and crap. Spoon included with a lighter garnish to make sure it wouldn't flush without professional intervention. Story 31. When I worked there a few years ago, I opened a small plumbing access door in the men's bathroom to clean out all the packages from stolen items people would stash in there. Inside, along with the packages, I found a women's bra. Weird, but not gross. And something I at first was puzzled by until I realized in disgust it was what is colloquially referred to in prison as a fifi. It was a makeshift flashlight made from a toilet paper roll stuffed with material and a latex glove poked down inside. Definitely a disturbing find. Story 32. Probably a parking lot. Death from some guy in his car. Didn't see the body, but I did see the spray before the fire department arrived and tarped the car. Story 33. This one guy peed so loud it sounded like a fire hose hitting. I damn near forgot to take the trash out. I'm pretty sure I quit after that. You're done. Story 34. Had all the cops in the city come to our Walmart for a report of a mother telling an associate that some man was trying to kidnap one of her kids after following them inside the store from all the way on the right side of the superstore all the way to the left side by meat cops, came and had the whole ducking superstore surrounded from the side exits to the 2 main exits, searched each and every bathroom, including going all in. The back departments had cops on the outside and inside, and had cops on this really tall hill outside at the back waiting for an escape. Then come to find out, after viewing the camera footage, the cops made a decision that the mother was just overreacting about the man trying to kidnap the little kid, saying that he was just being nice and was interacting with her kids, but just having that type of scenery happen so fast with little to go off of at first was crazy because I was going on break and the first cop to make it on scene asked me, did I have a walkie-talkie to get to manager? But me thinking that I was final in trouble for, using my employee discount with 0% charge, but yeah, that crap was wild. Story 35, used to work in OGP from 2020 to 2022, was shopping in the produce section and a man walked into the area I was in with a service dog. Dog proceeds to take a crap all over the floor, and the man just walked away like nothing happened with his dog. Since I saw it happen and was the only associate near the crap, I radioed for maintenance to come while I guard the area. I put my cart next to the pile of crap so people wouldn't step in it and was waiting for maintenance. All of a sudden, this old lady walks up next to my cart and steps in it. Literally 30 seconds later, another lady who was with her less than 10-year-old daughter walks by and the daughter steps in it. The lady started careening at me, asking why I would let anybody near the foul mess and that it was disgusting. I looked at her and said, I didn't do it. It was a dog. Don't get mad at me. In a snarky tone, I got written up. Still took maintenance 25 minutes to clean it up. Damn that place. Story 36. This happened while I was overnight and I was working pharmacy and ended up touching something. To this day, I don't know exactly what it is, but it looked like it might have lotion, gel, and liquid soap, just all mixed in, and I know that alone isn't particularly nasty. Keep in mind 2 things. 1, I didn't know that was in there, and several of my items were covered in it. 2, it was partially dry, so it had little flaky bits that added to the texture. I yelled at my BF for sending it out to me. Story 37. We had rats, roaches, and ants all up in the grocery bins, and you could smell the rat pee from far away. I've seen so much mold, spoiled food, and maggots over the years, it just doesn't faze me anymore. Story 38. Went to use the bathroom. No one in any of the stalls. Went into the first one with my back to the toilet. Turned around to a puddle, and I mean a puddle of poop all over the seat and walls. Story 39. There was some Heinz gravy in glass jars that I was looking for to fulfill an order, but when I finally found it in the back room, hidden behind other boxes, about 4 of the glass jars were broken, and you could see where it has been for the last month or so. Everything was covered in Heinz gravy and mold that dripped out the box. The worst part is, I didn't notice at first, and when I lifted the box, one of the jars fell right through the decayed cardboard onto my Yeezus and soaked their nasty, moldy gravy right through my shoe onto my socks. I brought them over to claims and tried to dispose of them myself so no one else would have to endure the horrible stench. But after like 2 jars, I just couldn't do it. That's the nastiest ducking thing I think I've ever seen/touched. I've worked in fast food and seen crap smeared head to toe on the walls. I've seen crap in the middle of the aisles before at Walmart, but for me, as someone who simply hates gravy and already thinks it's nasty, as that definitely is way worse, the squish of moldy gravy in my sock for the rest of the day was almost forcing me to put an hour of PTO in or buy some trash. Walmart shoes, but as the TL, I was simply too busy. I wouldn't wish moldy, broken gravy jars on anyone's feet no matter how they did me. Story 40. An elderly customer had begun leaking green liquid crap starting in the drinks aisle, then proceeded to rush out through the self-checkout, a mostly straight line. You could tell by the pattern, right when he realized it hit, then where he turned to run back the way he came. I didn't see the majority of it undisturbed, but I do remember my manager's face as he had the entire aisle sectioned off while he mopped, the soul behind his eyes gone. There was so much that a coworker, not a manager, stepped up to wipe up the massacre in the self-checkout area, and she too had a gaze without a soul while surrounded by green smears. The customers right next to her just stood in line as usual, looking more annoyed that someone was slightly in the way. My local Nosy Neighbors Facebook page mentioned the incident, and the commenters that weren't actually there were upset that we didn't close the whole store and have an entire hazmat team come in, as if people weren't content to walk through skid marks to avoid a longer line. Story 41. Worst by far were all the needles we found in our handbags/backpacks section when we would blow out under the shelves once a week. Our location is also not connected to a city sewer line and uses a leach line septic system. Well, all the shoplifters would put the plastic wrapping from their stolen goods down the disabled family toilets by electronics and cause it to back up one day as far as the garden department, and we still had customers try to walk through it. Was bad enough we had to use 2 Zambonis and the walk-behind scrubber to suck it all up. Story 42. Couple ODs in the parking lot and more than a few poop piles outside the restrooms, more than a couple soiled articles of clothing in the bathrooms, and the best so far was someone on one of the electric carts with a blown varicose vein. Story 43. This happened to my cousin. Someone took a crap in the change room and then tried to clean it with a pack of panties, but then gave up and left it all there. Even the cleaner refused to clean it up, so the manager had to. Story 44. Customer had a trip and fall. In the vestibule, they tripped on human feces. Footage showed like 20 minutes prior, an older gentleman walked in and shaked his leg until his golden nugget came out his pant leg. Story 45. The little fans near the cheese coolers, the goop that's inside those things, like it was a runny, chunky liquid. I don't even know what it was. Maintenance had to get some kind of suction machine to drain it out. Story 46. Probably the time a customer left a Q-tip with a huge ear goober sitting on the shelf. Or when you have to hunt for the rancid smell in the pet aisle, and it's a maggot-filled, busted open can of cat food. Story 47. Either A, a pile of crap, like actual crap just on the ground by the bike rack, or B, a coyote sticking out of a cardboard box found in the back of the parking lot. One of those two. Story 48. Found poop over in cosmetics. Team led found it shoved in cosmetics box. Only way we found it was there was a nasty smell coming from somewhere. Hopefully not human crap. Story 49. Apparently someone was drinking heavily the night before and had beer shifts, and while standing crap all over an entire H-rack of men's folded jeans. Story 50. Crap on an Amigo cart. Chewing tobacco spit on shelves a lot. A woman came in one day on an Amigo cart, holding a cardboard box between her knees, vomiting in it while she shopped. She didn't even come in alone, brought her adult children with her, so it's not like she even needed to be there. Another checked her blood sugar spitting on a bakery display table and left a dirty lancet. Of course there's the crap smeared on the walls and floors and toilets in the bathroom. Heroin needles on the grass next to the parking lot. used condoms, and the bottle return. It's hard to choose what the worst I've seen is. I've worked at 5 Walmart stores and a couple other retail stores, and I swear it's something about Walmart that truly brings out the best in humanity. Oh, almost forgot about the guy who brought his pit bull in the store. It crap on the floor, and he hit his dog right there in the middle of the meat department and left the crap smeared across the floor. Story 51. 1. While cashiering saw a kid that wouldn't sit down in the cart. Parents could care less. Kid tumbled out of the cart. They said he was fine and left, but he was screaming. No idea how it turned out. 2. A lady from the senior bus was checking out in my lane. She stood up out of the scooter cart to pay with her card. She lost her balance, fell straight back, and landed on her back and head. Her head sounded like a bowling ball hitting the concrete. Ambulance came and took her to the hospital. Didn't see her for a few weeks, but eventually did again. 3. 2 girls playing with stuff at checkout lane while mom was paying. They were taking the lids off the chapsticks and putting them on their mouths. I notified mom, but she did nothing. They left, and I notified management, and hopefully it all got pulled for buy chapstick singles at checkout. Story 52. It's not nasty in the sense of like crap, blood, or piss, but how people treat their children and how often children are ignored. I see small-ass children who couldn't be any older than maybe 4 or 5 walking behind their parents who aren't concerned with their kid keeping up with them. Kids wandering off while I'm checking their parents' stuff out at a register, or parents not keeping an eye on their kids while at the self-checkout. I watched one kid flip backwards completely out of a cart. What did the parents do? Dust the screaming and crying kid off while continuing their conversation with the electronics associate about getting a TV. Story 53. There was a lady at Walmart with a couple people and her infant, maybe almost a year old. They were getting one of the big blue carts, the one with the 2 seats and seat harnesses, out of a cart corral in the parking lot. The big blue cart had a regular cart pushed in behind it, which of course pushes the blue seats up. She must have thought it was a recliner type seat, so she put her baby on there, with the head towards the front before pulling the cart out from behind it. Of course, she pulls the regular cart out. The seat drops down, and the baby slides headfirst down to the bottom of the blue part of the cart. She picked the baby up and went on in. I wasn't around long enough to see if the baby was okay. Story 54. Walked into the bathroom and was greeted by a powerful stench. My curiosity got the best of me. Someone had destroyed one of the stalls. They had explosive diarrhea all over the place. Like I kid you not. It was all over the seat, on the floor around the toilet, on the wall behind the toilet, all over the toilet paper dispenser, and trailed a few inches beyond the toilet across the floor. I seriously cannot fathom how someone could do something like that. Like, I've had bad bathroom issues, but it's never propelled out of me like The Exorcist. But even beyond that, I can't believe they did that and just left it without telling anyone. But they did. Story 55. I used to work overnight, and on one of my smoke breaks at like midnight, this dude starts walking around the parking lot. He would stop at random cars and start waving his hands in front of the car, like he was cursing the car or something. Well, in between him cursing cars, or whatever you want to call it, I guess he got cold because he picked up this random parking lot beanie that only God knows where it has been. He didn't think twice about it. He picked it up and put it immediately on his head. That's definitely the grossest thing I've seen. Story 56. I had a customer come up to me and told me that it looked like someone had an accident. I went to the aisle of where they said the accident was. There was a trail of poop going down half the aisle and around the corner. I called for maintenance over there and an extra body to help guard the poop. It was something I'll never forget. Later on, the maintenance guy told me someone had went into one of the bathrooms and destroyed it with poop in there too. Made me wonder if it was the same person. Story 57. Watched in mild horror as a customer changed her baby on what used to be the McDonald's counter. Uses the space now. She then left the ducking diaper there and proceeded to walk by me with her cart and children as if nothing happened. We had no maintenance in the building. I gloved up and I scrubbed the duck out of that counter. I cannot for the life of me come up with a viable excuse for her behavior. The women's room up front was totally open and fine. Story 58. Seeing a dog poop through a buggy was nasty. The mold and growths on the meat wall. The moldy products in dairy. That dude who wanted to date me and I said no to, going after a married woman after being rejected and flirting with her in front of me. And he got her to leave her husband for his two-faced self. Our AP woman's attitude is also disgusting. As a cashier, how customers treat the workers is filthy. Story 59. Poop on the floor, IDK, I figure that's typical. I worked there for 3 months and on 2 separate occasions walked into a stall to find actual crap on the floor. I hope they have front maintenance now because at 2 p.m., I was just told to put a sign on the stall door and lock it from the outside so they can take care of it during close. Pro tip, tape doesn't stick to the stall door, but stickers do. Story 60. So this isn't what I saw, as luckily the nastiest thing I saw was puke, which wasn't bad. It was actually clear, so it looked like water, and if the parent didn't tell me, I wouldn't have known. So I'm going to comment on what our poor maintenance had to see. This guy took a dump on our glove and mask and temp check table, and poor maintenance had to clean it. Story 61. Not me, but my wife. She was pregnant at the time. A guy in an electric cart rolled up and smelled absolutely rank. She had to hold her breath as she was checking him out. She almost made through, but then noticed a string of toilet paper hanging out of the top of his pants and immediately threw up into the trash can. The CSM had to send her on a break. Story 62. You know those rolls of ground beef? Yeah, someone had decided they didn't want it, shoved it in a purse and jewelry, left it there for a couple of days, and the front end smelled like death. The maintenance guy that cleaned it up said that it was growing maggots. They had to discard those purses and Lysol the whole front end for 3 hours. Story 63. Luckily, I wasn't there, but someone let their dog crap somewhere on the floor, and some coworkers had to clean it up. I was in the back, so I saw them going back and forth to the sink with a mop and a squeegee and dustpan. They said the worst part wasn't cleaning the crap off the floor, it was cleaning the squeegee and dustpan. Story 64. IDK probably not as bad as some of the examples here, but there's this older man who smells like crap and piss every time he comes through my line. Again, only been working at this Walmart for 6 months. I know before I started working there, they had a shooting, and I'm expecting to see a lot more crap over my time there. Story 65. Besides seeing a man walking down the aisle, putting his hand down his pants, I saw where people like grabbing a mountain worth to stuff those toilets and one still had crap in it. The smell. There was also one time someone came in with the smell of deer piss. It was strong around the sporting goods area. Story 66. Someone poured a container of raw chicken livers on top of our men's baseball hat display. It dripped down the wall and spilled chicken livers on every single hat. It was really gross. Maintenance half-ass cleaned it and it started to smell really bad. They missed a piece of chicken liver under the end cap. Story 67. Poop at eye level in the bin. A customer's vomit that got all over the front of a locking case. The customer who vomited still had me get an SD card for them after they apologized for the vomit. I was a sales floor associate by myself and had customers to take care of, so I cleaned it up real quick. Story 68. Had one of the GM trucks infested with rats. Rat crap and piss all over boxes. Ducking management made us unload and reload that truck 3 different times before actually calling in about it and seeing how to claim it all out. The worst part is that they were like, here's some glove now, unload it. Story 69. I'm a cart pusher, and one day I was put on maintenance to help out, so I get called to the women's restroom because the other 3 restrooms in the store were clean for once. So I go into the women's room, I find a crap on the floor, a puddle of urine, and bloody tampons in the toilet. Story 70. Mine was heard. I'm the store receiver. Recently, our new GM coach stopped me and asked, why is it when you bring us the jewelry, the boxes they have been opened? I told her the check-in procedures, and her response was, oh, because I asked Market, and they didn't know why. Story 71. I had service desk accept a return filled with bed bug. The customer specified this during the return, and bring it back to me and claim. Honestly, can't believe what the service desk or the customer were thinking by allowing that in the store. Story 72. Was clocking out one day and went into the bathroom, saw at least 3 pairs of underwear on the floor in a stall with crap all over them. Not just stained, they were covered. I don't understand to this day. We had toilet paper. Story 73. Fish behind where the candy is by the register. Wish they gave it to someone. It was probably there for a day or 2 before it was found. Also, some woman crap in the sewing aisles. She did it on purpose too. Story 74. Walked in the bathroom once and there was liquid crap covering the whole entrance to the bathroom, the sinks, the trash cans in the first stall. Literally, there was crap all in the trash can by the sink. Story 75. When I was working the fitting room, customer asks to try stuff on. I go into the fitting room after customer leaves, and the customer left the clothes and a nice healthy dump of poop on the seat. Story 76. Walked out the stall in the men's bathroom to see a homeless man washing his pants and underwear off in the sink because he had crap himself. First thing I saw was a bare ass covered in crap. Story 77. One time this dude was buying the bloodiest ground beef he could find, and there was so much blood, it spilled all over the ground, and maintenance had to come to the register to clean it up. Story 78. One gross thing that I was taught to do in the deli, when we empty the juice and fat from the rotisserie chicken, we just dump it down one of the big floor drains. It feels so wrong. Story 79. The bloodiest period blowout in the toilet when walking in the girls' restroom. I'm used to seeing I flushed crap or whatever, but all I saw was red and I had to step back for a second. Story 80. Nearly 16 or so years ago, I was asked to do maintenance. I ended up pulling used female hygiene items off the wall in the women's restroom stall. So yeah, story 81. Also saw a turd the size of a family-sized peanut butter jar. It's one of those things you gotta wonder how something that size could come out of someone's exit door. Story 82. Pretty sure I rolled my cart over and walked through barf just in the middle of produce the other day. No sign, plenty of people around. I was bewildered. Story 83. My male boss having an overdose in the women's bathroom. Berkus, LA. Old lady pissed in front of deli hot case. Middle-aged woman pissing in other stalls and getting it on me. Mountain View, AR. Salary member of management started a pyramid scam that was called Blessing. Ponchatoula, LA. Salary member of management going crazy because he was constantly comparing an associate to another store. So the associate went to the other store to see for herself how they did things and was shocked that it was all lies. Manager tried to fire her. That was so stupid. Ponchatoula La. Woman trying to jump into the subway oven and cop in plain clothes pulls gun, so the store went nuts and was shut down for 2 hours. Then, when they opened back up, the OGP customers didn't care if there was a shooting. They were pissed and wanted their groceries now. Ponchatoula, Louisiana, store manager and co-manager were in office with earpiece out on conference call. The store got evacuated because they were putting tar on the roof and the chemicals were getting in the store. So when the store manager and co came out, the store was completely evaluated. Shreveport, Louisiana, Sam's Club. Store manager dealing with crazy customers who were never happy with the birthday cakes they ordered. The store manager apparently lead them to the service desk while the customer was complaining about the cake decorators. The store manager then hands the member some money back and smiles. She's like, "Oh, thank you for the refund for the cake." This man smiles back and says, "No, mama, this is a refund for your Sam's membership. You're not allowed to shop here anymore, and you're also banned." That was the best store manager ever. Barksdale L, a Sam's Club. 17 years of this company and 11 different stores. I've seen some crap. Story 84. Ex-call center associate here. Haven't seen it personally, but have taken calls from stores and customers on some nasty, crazy crap. Once got a call from a store asking for emergency facilities maintenance requests to clean up a pool of bodily fluid from a car. Someone died in their car in the parking lot and no one noticed, so it sat in the hot sun with the windows up for a month until it became a pool of liquid that finally made a noticeable stench and puddle on the ground. Florida stores would call in with an emergency request to remove an alligator from the store. One guy in sporting goods got tired of seeing this bird stuck in the store, so he loaded up a gun and shot it. He missed and put several holes in the ceiling. Had a customer threaten to end his life at a Walmart because they would not take his return. Had to talk him down on the phone and report it immediately afterward. Actually seen by myself was a case of workplace violence. A female associate hit a male associate literally 2 feet in front of me. I've seen some crap. Story 85, I once saw a guy puking literal projectiles in the video game section. That crap was crazy nasty. That tactical nuke type of puke, it's been over 10 years and I still remember it like it happened minutes ago. Borderline traumatized over this crap. It was like, homie dropped a 16-gallon of paint. There was vomit every ducking where. That guy didn't say anything, looked totally fine. Just started throwing up like a ducking child. Dude was so sick, he was just phased out, not answering the Walmart employees or anything, just violently puking while sitting on the floor. That crap was whack. I don't know, they got him out of there, I don't want to know. I've never went back to that Walmart Story 86. This is before I started working there. I saw an old man up by the front doors, speed walking out the store after leaving a big pile of sloppy crap. It slid down his pants leg. It looked like a melted poop emoji mixed with diarrhea, was brownish green, and smelled ducking atrocious. The type of smell that burns your eyes like onions, and you could have sworn steam was coming off that MF like a pile of dog diarrhea on a 90-degree day. It was truly abhorrent. Anyway, I had just gotten done shopping and was on my way out of the store, and after seeing this was frozen, truly frozen. The maintenance guy, as I now know as my good buddy Jimmy, came to clean it up and under his breath muttered, "They don't pay me enough to do this crap." I agreed and told him, "You isn't lying. You should be paid $20 an hour for that crap," and left the store. Story 87. Scumbag desk manager hooking up with a subordinate who was unqualified for the FNG promotion they gave her. Oh, and the literal daily OSHA violation. Either of those story 88. At store 2056, we have our sewer backup all the time, so sludge and raw sewage come up through the drains and electronics, the registers, all the bathroom. Completely floods the floor sometimes. If you flush and the sewage bubbles up through the drain even more. Produce, under a couple chilled bunkers and inside the alcohol bunker. All we do is mop it up and throw paper towels on the floor. Right now, our front-end bathroom is like quarantine. The door is covered in a plastic sheet. I'll post a pic if they haven't fixed it on Saturday when I go back to work. Story 89. Back when I was in management, there was an elderly man who had passed out waiting for his car to be serviced. At some point, he hit his head. It began bleeding a lot, as most wounds to the head do, and he didn't even realize, apparently. We found a blood trail all through the GM side of the store and had to track down the source. It looked like at some point he realized, and just kept going as there were bloody handprints on some of the PDQs and blood running down into the fast track. Yep, we had to close down the entire GM side of the store to clean it up. Story 90. A guy had a buggy full of groceries with 2 giant sacks of dog food underneath. There was also a screaming kid perched on top of all the groceries. He had to pee, and the dad didn't want to take him, so he peed all over the groceries, and thanks to the dog food, the pee went everywhere, and the guy just kept shopping, leaving a trail of pee behind him. I got a store manager because I was pretty sure that someone was going to slip on pee or dude was going to abandon the cart full of urine-soaked groceries. Story 91. Literally last week, someone had a large German Shepherd in the store, and they let it crap a pile bigger than my head. They just walked off. Didn't even mention it to anyone. We only found out because they were the only one in the store at the moment with the dog, and confessed when we asked. It made the entire aisle stink for an hour after being deeply cleaned. Not even the first time either. We deal with dog crap at least once a month. Story 92. Worked for Walmart in 2018 to 2020. Had an incident where someone liquid crap from our service desk, jewelry counter, and all the way to the restroom. Left a nice little trail in the floor. Approximately 100-ish feet. Small Walmart. Still had remnants of last night's dinner in it. Me and a close buddy of mine were determined to be the most fit to clean it. Was most easily the nastiest crap I've ever experienced, literally. Story 93. Not Walmart, but Kroger went to use the bathroom only to find used needles in the toilet, as well as what looked to be substances also in the toilet. As far as Walmart goes, the nastiest thing was probably the crap-caked jeans in the bathroom trash or the time someone missed the toilet entirely and crap all over the corner next to the toilet. Story 94. Dogs crap on the floor all the time. Nothing new, but one time, me and another guy I work with were taking a piss in the bathroom. When 2 guys walk past and go into the last stall, they start talking about wanting each other and other stuff. Me and the other guy washed our hands and got the duck out of the bathroom as fast as we could. Story 95, then used to work AP. Brought a lady into the office who then changed her tampon over the trash can. Walked up on an Amish man, pleasure himself to a novel in the book aisle. Saw camera footage of a woman back up against one of the pillars, take a dump, shake it out of her pant leg, and walk away. The stories are endless. Story 96, deadass. Tonight we all on overnight saw a customer who was in a miniskirt with over half her ass hanging out. Total escort vibes and looks. Better yet, we didn't know if she had any underwear on. It was just so sad because we're in a family suburb area. Like, I know I'm a lesbian, but that was gross. Story 97. Actually, a couple days ago. This woman with a massive rat's nest on her head, dark makeup on her face, she was wearing a tank top and what appeared to be bathing suit bottoms. She turned and started walking away from me. Got a full view of her ass. She had to have been 50 to 60 years old. It was 20 degrees outside. Story 98. First day. A guy tell me there's a mess in the front stall, and of course I decided to walk in because I used to be a janitor. I have seen some crap. All I know is you damaged animals, how you crap a smelly chocolate milk on the wall, 60% of the toilet, and the floor in one go? WTF. First day 2, story 99. When I used to work in shoes, I had a lady shopping with her child, and he puked down the men's shoes aisle on the floor, or so I thought. Because it was a nasty pinkish orangey color that was the consistency of cottage cheese, I found it along the display shoes on, and in the display shoes and boxes. Story 100. Besides people not be able to aim while using the bathroom, the worst I saw was when on night. Maybe 30 minutes before we had closed, this drunk woman and her friends come in and for whatever reason are unable to find the bathroom. Decides to pop a squat in the meat department and pee on the floor. Story 101. We have some addict that come around and look for half-smoked cigarette on the ground outside the store. One night, there was one sitting in a pile-out spit after some associates had been on break, and this guy still picked it up and tried to smoke it. Desperation is a crazy thing. Story 102. Summer of 2020. A pallet of juice reeked. The more we worked, the worse the smell became. Finally got to the center of the pallet and found a molded over case of Yoo-Hoo. I've never tried it, and now I never will. That and all the thawed-out freezer claims from around the store. Story 103. I was in maintenance, and I want to say a dog, I hope it was a dog, laid a turd the size of a Pillsbury biscuit in the middle of an aisle, and someone pushed it under a shelf. And the only reason I know it was pushed was because of the skid marks trailing from the middle of the aisle. Story 104. I would say it was the time the parents dumped the kid's diarrhea diaper into our $5 movie bin, but honestly, crap happens. The nastiest thing for me is when I'm zoning and I stick my hand in somebody's dip wad spit. Screw those redneck jackass pieces of trash. Story 105, customers and their lack of hygiene. I'm talking smelling so bad that it makes you gag, disgusting yellow/crusty fingernails, pulling money out of pants/bras, covered in animal hair, and I've seen someone come in with literal crap stains on the back of their pants. Story 106. I used to work at Walmart doing overnight stocking many years ago. The grossest thing I saw was a literal trail of crap puddles leading into the men's bathroom because a coworker apparently had tacos before work and trusted a fart that he shouldn't have. Story 107. Homeless person pissed right outside the cart garage where I worked, and later that day she had crap all over her legs. She was at the Walmart day and night for like 3 days, pissing and crapting everywhere. When the store was closed, this was post-COVID. Story 108. Someone's crap-filled pants and baby wipes used in the fitting room. I guess they crapped their pants, picked up a new pair, cleaned themselves with baby wipes, and wore the new pants out. Maintenance needed to the fitting room. Story 109. 2 used tampons in the drinking fountain when they were non-operational during COVID. I told a manager, and they sat there for a week before they forced the poor maintenance guy to fully disinfect the whole area. Story 110. Customer approached me to say his dog had an accident. I'm thinking, oh, a small puddle. Nope, dog peed down most of one aisle. Also heard about dog crap by the Christmas trees. I mean, I guess it's a tree. Story 111, 10:30 p. End of a shift, walked in on a very elderly man taking a dump legs, crossed completely naked with the stall door wide open. He didn't even look up at me. I just bolted. Ruined my 15L encounter. Story 112. I hate that we don't have an easy method for FIFOing freight, so we just shove the old crap to the back and put new in front. Yesterday, one of our mod team peeps found something that expired in 2021. Story 113. Men like to show their manhood off in the garden center for some reason, as well as sporting goods. Maybe it's all the flowers in bloom and the fresh vials of fox pea that triggers freeing Willie story. 114. A white trash guy and his wife brought their pit bull, clearly a fighting pit bull, into Walmart. It crap in an aisle and bite a guy. Then they were mad when they got kicked out. Story 115. In the early 2000s, saw an old guy in a wheelchair get a water bottle from those fridges in front of the registers. He drank from that water bottle and then put it back in the fridge. Story 116. One time we found a guy in his truck in summer after like a week. He lived in it. Then another time, a lady pulled her dress up and crap in the beer aisle next to the Coors Light. What is most disgusting thing you've ever seen at Walmart? Story 1. Anyone who has ever worked at Walmart will have many examples. Here's one. Customer buried packages of fresh chicken in a huge pillow bin. Found the source of the odor several days later. Story 2. My mom and I saw a woman trying on deodorants, then putting them back on the shelf. My mom told an employee who went to talk with her. Another employee asked my mom if she knew which ones were used. They were removed and tossed in the trash. Story 3. I have quite a few good ones. I grew up in West Virginia. That's very important. I worked only weekends as I was going to school to become a CNA. The weekends all the weirdos come out. There was this one family who always reeked of cow and sweat, like the strong haven't showered in a month and rubbed onions all over themselves kind of sweat. They always came to shop as a family but would use separate checkouts, and we would play rock, paper, scissors to see who would ring them up, and they always paid with cash. Wet, sweaty cash, and the mom would either pull it out of her sock or her bra. Every time after they left, we would wipe down everything and disinfect the cash, spray Febreze, and take turns taking our 15-minute break. We had a regular who would bring items to return that were either stolen or that didn't come from Walmart. She insisted on speaking to a manager even before we would start the return. After Black Friday one year, she tried to return a cart full of DVD-S and charging cables that she got from a thrift stores. She argued with the general manager about how they already had duplicates of the DVD-S and the changing cables didn't work on her expensive iPhone. She was clearly making bank somewhere to afford the latest iPhone and name brand clothes. She did have 6 kids by 6 different guys and regularly bought groceries with Snap. Each trip was over $1,000 a drag queen hit on my heavily pregnant coworker, and sweet little country boys who were confused about their sexuality would come in for snacks dressed in crop tops and booty shorts after a night of drinking with girlfriends and say they were dared to do it. Story 4. So many things. But the first one that pops to mind is a dude grabbing a bunch of Wagyu steaks, putting them in his pants, then rubbing himself with them when confronted. Then put them back on the shelf before he was escorted out. Obviously, we pulled them and claimed them out, but people are gross. Story 5. Someone took like 5 or 6 big bags of chicken nuggets, 5 packs of chicken breast, and 2 gallons of milk and shoved them under a shelf near Auto Care Center. Story 6. I worked overnight for about 5 years now, never had any problems until I walked inside the restroom. and two guys was getting it on when I walked in. They was in the last stall, and all you could hear was heavy breathing. Must have been in there for a while. Me being me, I waited a couple aisle down to see who it was when they came out. Couldn't believe it was my team lead, still traumatized to this day. Like, go to the family restroom or wait until you go home. Story 7. I've got some. A woman crap herself in our fabrics department. I'm unsure if she just decided to do it there or just didn't make it to bathroom. She left a trail all the way to the front registers. We called that department Fabrics and Craps for a long time after that. A former coworker of mine was selling a phone to this special needs guy. In the middle of the transaction, dude crap himself. Coworker had to endure the smell the entire time he was setting up the phone. An older lady bought a phone card and wanted me to add it for her. Okay, fine. She reached into her shirt and pulled out a flip phone she was storing in her bra and handed it to me. It was wet. Back when wireless was treated more as its own department, our setup had a place to sit across from where we set the phones up. Almost in the same vein as Vision Center is now. Had a homeless man wander in one day and sit down there. By the time anyone noticed him, he had already fallen asleep. He did not smell pleasant at all. As if his stench wasn't bad enough, he also pissed himself and left a puddle of it on the floor beneath him. Story 8. Some customer was dripping blood around the store. Never saw who, but the maintenance lady and I followed a trail for a while. Apparently there's some regular customer that leaks blood occasionally. Another time this guy brought his dog into the store and it proceeded to have liquid diarrhea everywhere. Witnessed a guy put on deodorant and then put it back. Saw a lady casually eating squares of toilet paper out of her purse like it was pieces of cheese. Saw another lady wearing little girl's underwear on her head once there was an absolutely foul smell in the dog food section. Tore apart the shelves for 20 minutes with the store lead just to find an exploded can of rotting dog food within a package of can. There were maggots. I've also found lots of hidden rotten meat. Story 9. So back in high school, I went with my girlfriend at the time. We got out and the lady next to us, I thought, was sleeping in her car. We came out later and saw crime scene tape wrapped around the lot and boxed my car in. 5 police officers and an ambulance were loading her in a bag. When I asked what's going on, they said some lady passed away in her car. Story 10. Blood everywhere. And a dude's junk with glass shards. Dude tried stealing those light tubes that are 12 to 15 bucks each. He took them out of the package and used electrical tape to wrap them around his legs and junk. They broke at some point, and he came out of the bathroom, pants around his ankles, full of glass. That man's junk story 11. Several years ago, a couple stopped me to tell me that there was an old lady down one of the grocery aisles that had pulled her britches down and peed on the floor. I go down the aisle to verify, and of course it smells like straight nursing home behavior. I immediately got on the walkie and got management to handle the poor lady. Story 12. 2 naked men, separate occasions that escaped from the mental institution, ran through the store. I was an API and I can confirm I was not the one that pulled film for Officer Story 13. A couple days ago, I walked into the family bathroom only to see crap on the floor and on top of the toilet seat like it literally looked like the emoji Story 14. At the Walmart I shop at, there is a woman well over 300 pounds on a motorized cart with tarantula eyelashes who literally put a big package of blueberries up her shirt and stole them. I, along with 2 other customers, told the door greeter what she did, and the Karen got out the door free and clear. I see her and her sister in there all the time. It's disgusting. Story 15. A guy who used to work in asset protection told me that one time he was watching the security cameras and saw a guy crap in the middle of an aisle and kick the turd under a shelf. Story 16. I had to have been like 9 or 10. Me and my grandma were at Walmart together getting some stuff, and we were in a checkout line waiting. I looked down at the floor and noticed this clear brown liquid on the floor, and I told my grandma to watch out and not step in it. Thought it was like spilled soda or something. We step up further, and the 2 people in front of us was an older man and a woman in an electric cart. The man had a cane, I think. Anyway, I just so happened to be looking down by the old man's feet when he was starting to walk away when a turd rolls out of his pants leg and onto the floor. We then realized that was likely his urine a few feet back as his pants were wet. Then the lady with him in the electric cart gets a paper towel from the cashier and she bends down and picks his turd up with the paper towel ever so casually. Now, I'm not shaming this old man, but seeing poop and pee in a checkout aisle is gross. Story 17. My mom saw an opened pack of underwear with either 1 to 2 of the underwear were having either crap or skid marks on them. Had no idea if the person were swapping them out for the new ones or what. Luckily, she saw it and told one of the employees, and they immediately threw the whole pack out. This is why I either grab from the backslash and or immediately wash any new shirts or pants that I get from Walmart. People are nasty, man. Story 18. It was me. I accidentally puked in front of the lockers. I was getting my stuff to go home because I had already gotten sick once, thankfully in the restroom. But my body just couldn't. I was very embarrassed, especially because there was at least one witness. Story 19. I saw an older lady who was quite obese breastfeeding a child who was way past the beefing stage. This coming from someone who did BF the maximum average amount. But what made this super terrible was she had her shirt completely off. Story 20. I just recently looked over after a customer let out the nastiest, wettest cough and watched them spit whatever the duck came up right into the paint section in crafts. Story 21. So I'm a cart pusher. I found used condoms and carts full of bloody tissues, but the worst thing was when a customer told me a man had collapsed in the bathroom. I went in there and yes, there was an old man laying on his back with his head poking under the stall door. The door was still locked, so I crawled under the stall to go get him. I turn my head and look, and there's crap, not 6 inches from my face. There's crap on the floor, toilet, walls, and him. Thankfully, I didn't touch any. So I help the guy up, and AP helps me get him in a scooter. His wife shows up and tells us this is a common occurrence. He craps too hard, and his heart can't take it, so he collapses. After AP and everyone gets done with him, he probably proceeds to shop for another several hours, still in our scooter that I have to go get. Story 22. I've seen multiple incidents where a customer, I hope it was a customer, just completely unloaded their bowels all over the entire restroom. Like the walls completely covered in feces plus toilet and floor behind the toilet. Also, this one is a personal distaste, but I once had a customer ask me for help with a gate situation. They had a newborn baby in the top section of their cart and a pit bull puppy in the back area. They asked me for my recommendations on an appropriate gate to buy. Seeing the danger, I recommended a nice sturdy gate. It was a bit more expensive, but I figured it would provide more protection. They ultimately decided to go for the cheaper plastic one. I hope I don't see their child and dog on the news in my area. Story 23. We had a sewage leak come through a valve on the floor into the OPD backroom. It was the worst smell I've ever smelled in my entire life. People were asking if they could go home since the smell was making them sick. And one associate said she used to work at a funeral home and the smell reminded her of the dead bodies. Old liquid crap leaking into an area with food is pretty ducking disgusting in itself as well. Story 24, used front-end restroom. Hated using it, but I was air closer to that bathroom than the back-end restroom. Walked into the woman's restroom and second stall. I see melted shat on the floor and seat and just shook my head and walked out. I couldn't even pee no more. I always feel gross using it, so I hold off till my shift ends. Story 25. I work overnight on our store's remodel, and when we were replacing base decks and produce, we found a full bucket of fried chicken. It was all green, fuzzy, and wet. Story 26. Some's crap covering the back of the toilet going up the wall, all over the seat, and all over the floor front end. TL had to put on a hazmat suit and hose it down because maintenance was gone for the day. Story 27. Last week, I came in the bathroom, and the first thing I saw was this lady having diarrhea, and her poop went over the floor. I feel bad for the maintenance guys who had to clean her crap. Story 28. Had to have a brand new maintenance associate clean one of the stalls in the ladies' room. There was literally crap. 2 floors above the toilet on the wall along with crap all over the floor. Story 29. 300-pound old guy dropped his thong and took a massive crap in the men's shoe area. I mean like a full-on log turd. That was a problem well above my pay grade, so I didn't do nothing. Story 30. Somebody crap all over the bathroom. They had to have pulled their pants down and been walking around because it was in multiple stalls and by the urinals and sinks. Story 31. One time this dude came in the men's bathroom and both stalls were taking right. This man had to crap so bad and couldn't hold it, so he let it loose in the urinal. Story 32. A bunch of toilet paper covered in a hit on the floor and the toilet seat covered in crap. But the absolute worst part is that it was in the employee bathroom. Story 33. I have 3 fun stories. First, in maintenance, I was shutting down the female restroom at the back of the store to do my normal cleaning routine when I noticed the horrible smell. I went and grabbed as many air fresheners as I could hold. I then went in the restroom and placed them everywhere I could. And as I got to the back stall, I noticed a spread of diarrhea starting at about 5 feet from the floor, all the way down onto the toilet seat, with some going behind the toilet. Couldn't hold it long enough to sit down, I guess. Second, I got hired into AP and was walking around with my coach when we both needed to use the restroom. He entered in front of me, came to a dead stop, then turned around and said, "Go in there and tell me if I saw what I thought I saw." Not realizing the peril I was in, I entered to find a half-naked 80-plus-year-old man covered in fecal matter from shoulders to feet, all his extremities both out and covered, and he was just standing there, facing the door. His wife eventually came, and we shut down the restroom so she could help him. Third, right as I was about to clock out for my shift while I was in maintenance, literally heading to the door, A man walked by me with a dog. The dog was assuming squat position and defecated as it went by. I told the man his dog just had a bowel movement, to which he stopped and started looking to clean it up. But before he could, a woman and child walked by, and the child kicked the poop as hard as he could, spreading the feces all over the floor, some apparel items, himself, the dog owner, and his mom. I immediately clocked out and left. Walmart is such a fun place. Story 34. Anytime I have to work on a fast, things always smell of rotten cat food and have a layer of permacrud on them. One time, a case of bleach busted open on one end, fried a network card that controlled one of the sorter tees, and the whole thing crapped the bed. That combo of rotten cat food, bleached and toasted electronics is burned into my nose. Packed of green hot dogs underneath dock levelers when having to change a blower motor. Floor drains clogged full of grease. The first 3 feet of my drain auger looked like it ran through a wall of Crisco. Ended up getting that sent out to a plumbing vendor to jet the line. Dead birds inside RTUs and AHUs on the roof. Urinal is clogged and not flushing. Every time I get one of those tickets and I have to auger it, guess what the source of the drain blockage is? Big old chunk of chewing tobacco. Resetting toilets after replacing a wax ring is always fun. The layer of poo below the toilet that squeezes out the wax ring is nice and gross. Story 35. One time in the ladies' restroom, someone did the butt hover above the toilet and missed. There was green diarrhea flowing down the side of the toilet, making a shiny greenish puddle. It looked kind of like watery guacamole. The smell was considered a war crime by the Geneva Convention. The worst part is, we didn't have back then to nope out of cleaning it up. Another time, someone kicked raw shrimp under the shelf and it got ripe. Story 36. For me, it would either be the chub of ground beef that was so swollen it looked like it could explode at any moment, or when I was working electronics on overnights and there was this horrible smell at the edge of the department, right next to pets. Turns out there was an open can of pet food with maggots found maybe 2 weeks after the smell started. Overnights had apparently said it wasn't their job and pushed it to the back. Story 37. A weird rotting smell near the bacon. Every time I went to stock bacon, a weird smell would be around that area for about a month. I tried looking everywhere for the smell, but I could find what was causing it. Looks like third shift somehow found what it was, and it magically went away. Oh, and a rotten can of cat food on top stock with maggots in it. Story 38. I was top stocking in pets and started noticing a smell. Got to a point where it was strong. As I was rotating/arranging trays of canned dog food to downstock more, I found it. Someone had popped the lid on a dog food can and buried it in the middle of the rear case on the shelf. By this time, it had oozed and overflowed, with the most rancid of gravies leaking everywhere. Story 39. At least one customer a day reeks of substances. A woman I encountered in the self-checkout a few days ago literally smelled like she didn't believe in toilet paper. I also heard about a guy taking a dump in the trash can in the men's restroom a couple months ago. The SCO area, where I was working, is close enough to that set of restrooms that the smell started wafting out. Story 40. IDK. If I would call this disgusting, per se, but about a month or so ago, had a pregnant woman stop suddenly in front of customer center. Blood started pouring. She had her husband and 3 babies with her. Calling for an ambulance while trying to get management to understand the severity of the situation was fun. Story 41. When I worked there over a decade ago now. Used pad shoved in the toilet paper cover dispenser at my Walmart. Used pad shoved in the toilet paper dispenser at another Walmart I was helping out at. I have a phobia of blood and get weak/queasy. Had to sit on the nasty bathroom floor until the feeling of passing out left me. Just my luck that it would happen to me twice. Story 42. Not the most disgusting thing, but I've seen associates and even customers at my Walmart so big they take up almost whole aisles. Sad considering I live in a state where it's nothing but hills and mountains. I always wonder how someone gets to that point in their life where they have to use scooters to move, because their legs physically can't hold their weight. Story 43. I found blood splatter in the bathroom on the floor and walls. I have a picture. It looked like someone was projectile pooping blood everywhere, I told management. And they said, the maintenance guy called out today. We don't have anyone to take care of it right now. So that blood was in that stall for over a day, with some yellow tape on the door. Story 44. I no longer work there, but a used bloody tampon thrown behind the toilet. Also, a man walked into the store and just stood right at the entrance to produce and let his dog piss all over the floor while saying if they got to go, then they will. Everyone basically stood nearby waiting for him to finish and leave, so maintenance could clean the area. Story 45. Worst one for me so far has been finding an actual puddle of piss all over and around the toilet in the family bathroom. We all use it at night. This was on nights, and I'd been in there an hour before and it was clean. That meant it was for sure one of my coworkers. Couldn't look at anyone the same for weeks. Never figured out who did it. Story 46. In my old store, we had some guy who used to come in and pleasure himself. Another time, we caught a guy over in little girl's clothing, smelling the packages of panties. I was over the moon when we started closing at night. Really cut back on the disgusting behavior we had to deal with. Story 47. A very large woman, completely naked, banging on a stall in the bathroom. We locked eyes. She faced me, then turned back around and went into the handicap stall. Also seen menstrual pads smeared with crap and stuck to the mirrors. I felt so horrible telling maintenance that I cleaned it with her. Story 48. As an overnight associate, I personally haven't seen any but have heard stories. One of our team leads has had a child take a dump on the floor in fresh. And one of the ON maintenance workers, who's on the younger side, had to clean up in the men's restroom. After the two had relations. Story 49. Some guy pleasured himself at me at the photo kiosk. I was pissed and kept cool, and he got caught with a gun. Naturally, I had to finish my shift, and my manager just growled at me, "I hope your day gets better." I complained on my AES, and she was forcefully demoted and switched stores. Story 50. A young woman. She was pretty big, had a tight undershirt on, short shorts. That in itself wasn't exactly flattering, but she smelled so bad. I had to go return something to another aisle because I instantly felt nauseous and like I was going to vomit from how bad she smelled. Story 51. The same woman walks laps every night with her small dog in the cart. She picks the dog up out of the cart, walks it on a leash into the family restroom, then picks it up and puts it back in the cart after walking it out. It's disgusting, and no one says anything. Story 52. A guy in a wheelchair that smelled really bad. I mean, okay, maybe he has trouble washing, but he was wearing this pair of tiny shorts, like picture women's underwear boy shorts style. And part of his junk, or maybe balls, was sticking out of the edge of the shorts. Story 53. Rotting chicken placed on top of some paper towels. Liquid dripping everywhere. Also, someone filled a cart with brisket and left it by the customer service desk. I think I briefly stopped eating meat for a few days after that. Story 54. I saw that there was puke in the family restroom. One of the other maintenance guys took care of it. Apparently, the customer had peanut butter, and it either didn't sit right or they probably ate too much and they kept eating in blue chunks. Story 55. We had a customer on a Mart cart try to steal a whole turkey. When she was at the register getting ready to pay, it plopped out from between her legs and hit the floor. She acted like she had no idea how it got there. Story 56. We had some teenagers come in and hide meat throughout grocery. We had a mystery smell for weeks and finally caught them coming in to move it around, so it was harder for us to find. It's happened twice now, actually. Story 57. All over the place during remodel. They found a clog they said could have been there a long time. Not sure how that would have worked, but I guess it is what it is. We'd used porta potties for 2.5 weeks for fixing. Story 58. I heard a customer pulled up in front of the store, shat in a corner next to the vending machines, and nonchalantly got back in his truck and drove away. What I wonder is, he drove off without wiping himself? Story 59. Just yesterday, I was working in the fitting room. I went to lunch, and when I came back, I was cleaning up each room, and on the floor was a Tampax. Yes, they had opened the package and switched out their tampon. Story 60. 400-pound toothless old lady who would regularly drive around the store for hours on a handicapped cart. When she would leave, there would always be a literal urine puddle sloshing back and forth on the seat. Story 61. I saw a woman holding a dog while standing over the fresh vegetable coolers. Her dog started having a sneezing fit, snot flying everywhere. The woman didn't even think about backing away. Story 62. I was once doing top stock and I found an open can of wet cat food. I was going to take it to claims until I peered in a little more and saw tiny maggots crawling around. I just threw it away. What is the craziest thing you have seen from people at Walmart? Story 1. A shoe hanging on the rack with a turd in it. The back men's room was set on fire to cover a theft. A couple of second shift workers taped a picture to the floor in the GM foyer of a guy getting a BJ from a girl, both also employees, and was recording customer reactions to be posted online later. Story 2. At about 1 a.m., a drunk guy kept trying to buy booze, went to different cashiers/self-check each time, and each had to call me over. Eventually, I told him to get the fuck out or I'll have cops trespass him. He proceeded to go to the side of our building, smoke meth and hide his backpack with the meth in a bush, and then try again but was stopped at the door by me. He proceeded to scream and then had a seizure and fell and hit his head. He woke up, stood up, and ran into slash past me about 100 feet in the store before seizing again and just dropping and shaking in a pool of blood. An off-duty cop came and rendered aid before ambulance and cops came, strapped him to a gurney, and then he was gone. No idea what happened to him after. Story 3. An addict walking through the front door, just casually smoking meth. High-speed chase ended in our parking lot and a guy screaming, I am going to get all you addict. My store is very lively. Story 4. This was several years ago. I was standing in line at self-checkout and saw a girl with a purse full of credit cards, like 100 of them, at one of the registers. She had the purse set on the little platform to unload your groceries and a stack of Walmart gift cards on the other. She would swipe to load the gift card, try with a credit card. If it worked, she completed the transaction and started a new one with the next credit card and gift card. If it didn't work, she'd swipe another credit card until she found one that did. To this day, I can think of no reasonable explanation for this except they were stolen. But it seems like those gift cards could be easily traced to the stolen cards and deactivated by the store. I spoke with the front-end supervisor on duty as I was leaving. The girl was still there, doing her card routine, but I don't know if anything came of it. Story 5. At one store, we had someone walk in, pull down her pants and crapped on the floor. Another woman lifted her skirt and crapped next to the jewelry counter. But a funny one was the very drunk and high woman who had a lifetime ban from all Walmarts come in yelling, "Duck you, Walmart! I'm in the store! What are you gonna do about it?" She walked throughout the store, yelling about being banned, but she's in the store. She started running, still cussing out Walmart, when management approached her and finally made it to the exit where the police were waiting. We've also had fights in the parking lot and an extremely wasted person throw up in front of the deli counter, then overdose in the parking lot.